Good morning all. I am Dr. V.C. Priyadharshini from SFR College Sivagasi, and in today's class we are going to see a small analysis of this poem Once Upon a Time. We are going to check if Gabriel Okara's Once Upon a Time is a folk poetry or not. We are going to see the characteristic features of folk poetry, and then we are going to apply the same to this poem, and then we will do a small analysis. So, we will move to the first slide about Gabriel Okara. Gabriel Okara was a Nigerian poet, and he is also a novelist, and he belongs to this Ijo tribe. And in 1953 he published his poem The Call of the River Nun, and he won an award in the Nigerian Festival of Arts. And he also wrote a very revolutionary novel, The Voice, in the year 1964. He experimented, actually it's a linguistic experiment, okay. He did a linguistic experiment in which he translated directly from the Ijo language. And why this particular novel is very important is this was written in a time when other African writers, they were against writing in English, especially writers like Ngugi wa Thiago. They focused on decolonizing the mind. So at that time he wrote this novel, which was an experiment, and it was widely appreciated by many people. And he also in the worked in the publishing house between 1972 to 1980, and he also published other works. The other published works are The Fisherman's Invocation, and he has written two books for children, Little Snake and Little Frog, and An Adventure to Juju Island in the year 1992. And he is popularly called as a Nigerian negriturist. And one of the Okara's most famous poems is Piano and Drums. Other poems are You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed. Most of his poems will be very simple to understand, nothing complicated, but it will be very deep in meaning. So that's what makes his poems special. And many of his unpublished manuscripts were destroyed during the Nigerian Civil War, and he died in the year 2019. So this is about him, and he is Gabriel Okara, the one on the And then folk poetry. We'll see what folk poetry is. Folk poetry is poetry that is part of a society's folklore, usually part of their oral tradition. So, and then it can be sung as a song. That is the most important thing about folk poetry, and it comes under folklore. Folklore is a traditional belief, custom, stories and art forms of a specific cultural group. It's passed down through generations, often orally, and includes everything from myths and legends to recipes, songs, jokes, dances and rituals that define a community's shared identity and experience. And Cambridge Dictionary, it defines it as the traditional stories and the culture of a group of people. The English word folklore, it was first coined by William J. Toms in the year 1846. African culture is known for oral literature, not just African culture, any culture that began very early. All of them have this oral literature. Things will be passed on through mouth to mouth, like it will be passed on like that. So that is oral literature. And traditionally, writing did not play a prominent role in the transmission of folk poetry, which therefore tends to have a fluidity and flexibility that seems characteristic of oral literature. Anonymity was also very popular. I mean, anonymity is one characteristic feature of oral literature, because they did not want to record who the writer is. If I say something, if I write a poem and then I sing it to someone, and that person will sing it in, there will be different forms of the same work. That's what I want to say here. That is what is important to note about oral literature, and also folk poetry. Often it will not be written. Sometimes it will be written, and sometimes the writer's name will also be there. And themes include historical, social, love, religious and nostalgia. This particular poem, Once Upon a Time, has social as its theme. And characteristic feature of folk poetry. These are the few characteristic features that we are going to apply to this particular poem. Melody, in the case of texts which are sung or often melody, we all understand, these poems can be sung when it is a folk poem. And then length, it will be quite lengthy when compared to a normal poem, because it is narrative, which means there will be some story in it. So definitely we cannot bring a story in a few lines, so it will definitely be very lengthy. That is another characteristic feature. And then you have repetition, words and sometimes line will also get repeated, because I already said it will be sung like a song. So repetition will be there. And then focus on a single event. There will be one particular thing event or one particular situation or an idea that will be discussed. throughout the poem. And then exaggeration, there be usage of metaphors and similes will be there, and then that will be present, that's exaggeration. And contrast, this we will look into it when we get into the poem. And contrast is also another characteristic feature of a folk poem. There be this or that will be present there. And then metaphors, again another characteristic feature. And now moving on to the text. Once upon a time, son, let me read it first and then I will explain it to you. I have made certain lines green for me to explain it to you later after my reading. Once upon a time, son, they used to laugh with their hearts and laugh with their eyes, but now they only laugh with their teeth, while their ice block cold eyes search behind my shadow. There was a time indeed they used to shake hands with their hearts, but that's gone, son. Now they shake hands without hearts, while their left hands search my empty pockets. Feel at home, come again, they say, and when I come again and feel at home, once, twice, there be no thrice, for then I find doors shut on me. So I have learned many things, son. I have learned to wear many faces, like dresses, home face, office face, street face, host face, and cocktail face, with all their confirming smiles like a fixed portrait smile. And I have learned too to laugh with only my teeth and shake hands without my heart. I have also learned to say goodbye when I mean good riddance, to say glad to meet you without being glad, and to say it's been nice talking to you after being bored. But believe me, son, I want to be what I used to be when I was like you. I want to unlearn all these muting things. Most of all, I want to relearn how to laugh, for my laugh in the mirror shows only my teeth like a snake's bare fangs. So show me, son, how to laugh, show me how I used to laugh and smile once upon a time when I was like you. So that's the poem. It's a very beautiful poem. It's a narrative poem that we all know, and it's also a dramatic monologue. A single person is narrating something to one boy who's his son, and then it's a didactic poem. Some moral or some lesson is being taught through this poem. And we have to note one more thing. This poem has elements of colonization too. First of all, I'll tell you how this poem is divided. The first three stanza, it's divided into three. The first few lines or the first three stanza speaks about his current situation, like how things are now in the modern world, his own experiences that he discusses in the first three stanza, and then he moves on to what it has done to his life, how it has changed him, that we see in the next few lines. And the last two stanza, like the next two stanza, and then the last two stanza we have where he has a conversation with his son about what he wants to become. So this is how this text is divided. And about colonization, this poem, it has elements of colonization because he speaks about a time when he is talking about a time when life was different before colonization. The African culture has in it this living together. Being inside a compound. We have those. We know that how they used to live. In books like Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart says how as a community they all live together, how they have the habit of sharing things and all. But now it is not like this. Especially after colonization, there's a race. There's a fight that who is better than whom. That is happening now, and that affects the life of the African people who are very close to their culture, and that is not something that their culture taught. That is something that they learnt because of colonization. So that is again we find it in this poem, and then it is written in free verse, and then we can see how this poem, it shows how the African culture moves from utopian to dystopian. And then we'll get into the poem. Once upon a time, that's how the poem starts. Once upon a time, a long time, which indicates a long time, long time ago, and also it's like a fairy tale opening of a story. Like we say, it is a narrative poem. So he is opening the poem with once upon a time. And once upon a time, son, they used to laugh with their hearts and laugh with their eyes. So the first three lines contrast with the next three lines. We have a but there, but now they only laugh with their teeth, while their ice block cold eyes search behind my shadow. So once upon a time they laughed with their hearts. They are very happy. They really meant what when they laughed. They did not laugh just because they have to. They were not fake. That was what he is trying to say through these lines. and laugh with their eyes. Laughing with eyes is something even more genuine. When you laugh with your eyes, it means you really laugh. Your eyes sparkle. That kind of a laugh. Whatever you share, the joke or something that was shared, it is very true. It is very genuine. So, and then there's a contrast. But now they only laugh with their teeth, while their eyes block cold eyes search behind my shadow. Now they laugh only with their teeth, which means that they are not at all genuine. They are very fake. While their eyes block cold eyes, they are not at all genuine. They are very cold. Cold is a symbol that says uncomfortable. Uncomfortable indicates uncomfortableness. So, search behind my shadow. And then the next stanza, there was a time indeed they used to shake hands with their hearts, but that's gone, son. So, they have the habit of like shake hands. They are very genuine. Again, it shows that how genuine they were. There was no any kind of artificiality there. But these days we are just shaking hands with each other just because we have to, because it's a formal occasion, or even in an informal occasion we have to shake hands with each other because that's a demand, we have to do that. So that's what he says. But that's gone, son. Now they shake hands without hearts, while the left hand search my empty pockets. So we shake hands only with those people who we think that are rich, or they have something to offer to you. Only to those people we are ready to shake hands, and not to others. That's what he indicates to this empty pockets. So when a person is shaking hands with me, now they are checking whether I am good, whether I am well established, whether materialistically I am fine. All those things are being checked, and there is no genuinity. There is lots of artificiality going on there. That is again explained in the second stanza. And then feel at home, come again, they say, and when I come again and feel at home once, twice, there will be no thrice, for then I find doors shut on me. Again, even in Indian culture, we see there is one practice, Virindombal and all we have, where we have the habit of welcoming guests. How many ever times they come, it's always in a culture to welcome the guests. But now genuinely it's lost. We are not in a position to entertain or welcome guests like how we used to welcome earlier. That is what he is saying here. Well, feel at home. A home is no more a home when it is, even in our own homes, we are not feeling at home these days. So that's what he is saying there. So nobody is ready to welcome another person. Once or twice is okay, but third time, even now if you think about it, even once, the first time, they are not ready to welcome, they are not very welcoming. So that's what he speaks about in this third stanza. And then moving on to the next. So I have learned many things, son. I have learned to wear my faces like dresses, home face, office face, street face. So now there is a transition, there is a change. So this person, I mean the poetic persona, he says, now all these things have changed me also. I also have to adapt to this environment. I cannot be different. I cannot stick on to my own culture. I have to change because there is a demand there. I cannot go and laugh with my heart. I cannot go and shake with my hearts, and I cannot go and feel at home, make others comfortable at my home. Things have changed, and I also have changed. That's what he's saying. I have learned many things. Has learned many things from the people around him. I have learned to wear many faces like dresses. Home face, that's a very important part there. Home face, office face, street face. Everywhere he is having different faces. At home he's got a face, in office he has a different face, at street he has a face. When somebody is coming home he has a face, and cocktail face is also there. With all the confirming smiles, like a fixed portrait smile. Everywhere he's like a picture, like in a picture he's just smiling. He continues to smile, but again he has become artificial because of his experiences. And I have learned to laugh with my teeth and shake hands without my heart, like I said already. I have also learned to say goodbye when I mean good riddance, like I am so happy you left. That kind of a feeling he is actually having when he says goodbye. And when he says glad to meet you, he says that he does not feel, he is not glad about meeting those people, and it's been nice talking to you after being bored. It again speaks about how modern life is. Like we are not ready to, we always keep saying that we don't have time for things. But we actually have the same 24 hours, but we are not ready to spend time. We are not ready to shake hands with a genuine heart. We are not ready to smile together with a genuine heart. Things have changed for the modern man for reasons we all know. And but believe me, son, now again the third part, believe me son, I want to be what I used to be. He wants to change, he wants to become like him. I want to unlearn all these muting things. Most of all, I want to relearn how to laugh, for my laugh in the mirror shows only my teeth like a snake's bare fangs. That's a very important thing over there. I want to relearn. He wants to go back to how he was earlier, and he doesn't want to live this kind of a life. Somewhere he feels this very suffocating. He is not very comfortable into what he has become, and that is what is getting reflected here. He wants to change, he wants to go back to his own roots and go back to his culture and all those things. This poem in general, it reminds me of one other novel by Chinua Achebe, No Longer at Ease, which was published in the year 1960. In this story you have Obi. In this story we have Obi who leaves his village for education in Britain, and then he joins civil service. He could not balance between his African culture and then his Western lifestyle, and he ends up taking a bribe. So that's something similar to this. He wanted to be good in the story. He wanted to be good, but ultimately he becomes a bad person. And same way in this poem also, he wanted to be a good person, but situation has made him into something else. But he wants to go back to his own roots on his early life. And so, show me son how to laugh. Show me how I used to laugh and smile once upon a time when I was like you. So that's the end of the poem. So why is this a folk poem? It has a song, definitely. It is lengthy, and repetition is, we see repetitions all over. You have eyes, hearts, face, smiles, all of these words are getting repeated, and the focus is on a single event of satirizing a modern man, and then exaggeration, usage of metaphors is there, and then there is contrast, like we saw in the within the stanza also there was a contrast, and within the we saw the contrast there, and then there were definitely metaphors all over the poem. So that is why Once Upon a Time by Gabriel Okara is a folk poem.